Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This has been the show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Arrow. So in this episode, kind of an interesting start, because I feel like no episode ever really starts like this, because it almost didn't even feel like an Arrow episode with the way the episode started. But basically, it's like, Caden's gotten inside of the, like, infrastructure of this town, and basically, different things. Ends up killing a lot of people. A councilman even ends up killing Pike. Did not see that coming. That kind of surprised me, because I thought, like, on some level I was hoping everyone in the elevator was okay. I was like, no, that normally would kill them, but it's most likely they just survived, right? Oh no, they're dead. I'm like, that's so interesting. Like, a pretty recurring character in the series is just dead like that. That's so interesting. I don't know. It's just funny to me because that actor is also the actor who plays Pike is also currently on Supernatural to a certain extent, because he plays one of the characters. He plays Patience's dad in the show. But nevertheless, it's just kind of interesting to me. It's like, oh, that's been such a recurring character in the show. You're just killing them off like that. I just thought that was so interesting. I guess it's just, I don't know whether that's supposed to be set up for something later on, because like he's the, I forgot what's his title again. He's like head police dude. I know that's not like the official job title. It'd be a lot simpler just to refer to it as that, I'm sure, but it's like his position. I think that killing him had to be a situation of like they're opening it up for someone else, whether it's going to be a good guy or bad guy later on. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm about to say, like, oh, it could be open it for Lance, like not unless he decides to go back, like the whole mayor stuff isn't his cup of tea. I mean, he temporarily goes back to the job because Oliver kind of tells him like, oh, we need your help, you know this world, so you kind of take charge here. But I mean, that might also be set up for like eventually Lance kind of returning to the police force and leaving kind of like this whole deputy mayor thing behind. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to see what they decide to do. But like I said, it feels more like they're trying to get someone else to fill that position. So let's hope it's not a bad guy. We would just have to wait and see. But basically, we learned some interesting things in this episode. For one, the whole reason why Caden's so mad at Oliver, it was kind of interesting. He's like, oh, the fact of the matter is, I was like, we finally get to find out what he's talking about. I was like, my son died because one of your arrows, you missed one of your intended targets and struck my son. Which immediately my brain went, that, for one, I always had a feeling, I was like, no, there's no way Oliver killed your son. I was like, not unless this was like, and then I was like, well, I guess it must be at this point because they keep driving forward with it. So it's like, but part of me in the beginning was kind of like, it had to be like some manipulation, someone's using Caden, which it turns out to be the case. But it's like, because in retrospect, it's like, well, Oliver never misses. He's super good at what he does, Because let's not forget, like, there was a situation last season he didn't miss. It's like, all the arrows he fired entered Billy. So it's like, when he intends to hit a target, he hits a target, Whether the target knocks away the arrow or whatever, splits it or breaks or whatever the case may be is a different story. But he always hits his target just because, like I said, Oliver is that good. So that's where immediately my brain went, and I was like, that's so interesting. And I appreciate they actually gave you a timeline in the show. It's like, yeah, my son died like a year ago today. It's like, Oliver wasn't even in Star City at that time, apparently, because the timeline, lining it up with the timeline, I thought was kind of interesting. Like, yeah, he was in Hope City trying to recruit Dinah. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And so it's like, okay, then, which is also interesting too, because it's like, I mean, why would you immediately, well, apparently Caden got some evidence from someone to prove it was Oliver, but it's like, there have been so many people that use arrows besides Oliver. There's Malcolm, there's Raish, God, what's Katana's husband's name? It was something with an M, I forgot, that was working with Raish. Wasn't he? No. That was 100% Raish that was in town pretending to be Oliver. Who else? Also, especially more so than anything, because it would. I'm using it as an example because those two use arrows, but more so would be, Prometheus, Adrian. He used arrows and he was around at that time too. So it's like, why? Like, not unless this is like further manipulation from Adrian beyond the grave or something like that, Because who knows what other plans he had laid out just in case things didn't kind of get to where they eventually were with Leah and you or something. So, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that kind of want Oliver out of the way, and this would kind of be like the best way is to kind of get like someone like Caden against him like that. Kind of, it's just so interesting. I'm curious to see what goes down when the truth comes out about Caden's whole situation, his whole vendetta against the city, against Oliver, stems from the fact is, oh, you killed my son. But it's like, when the truth comes out, I was like, I didn't kill your son. Oh, well, sorry. It's like sorry's not going to do it for all the people he's killed in his personal vendetta. So, because in Caden's eyes, it's like this city is what matters to you. So I'm destroying everything that matters to you. And I guess on some level, same too. It's like this city embraced you. Hence why he kind of went out of his way to kind of destroy vigilantes in the eyes of the city too. Because it's like, oh, this city embraced you, so I'm going to destroy the city for embracing the man who killed my son, essentially. So. That was just kind of interesting. Sadly, Helena was helping Felicity in the episode, but sadly she wasn't able to get any info on who this person is, like where the evidence came from. Part of me is also thinking, well, there's still, God, what's their name? Hive, because we still have not touched back on that whole can of worms since season 4. They've kind of gone dormant since like Damien Dark's whole Genesis plan kind of failed. So I don't know. I'm still waiting for them to pop up again in the show, but I've kind of wondering. I was like, oh, could they be kind of behind this and whatever? We'll just have to wait and see on that. So, but an interesting thing about this too is the fact is that there is the teams are being divided. Still no name for. It seems like Curtis is kind of the leader, even though it's more of a democracy than original Team Arrow was. It seems like Curtis kind of leads the group. Kind of interesting. Well. Because eventually they end up running into Vince, and there's a whole thing about whether Vince can be trusted or not. The fact is he went to Curtis makes me wonder. I mean, to be fair, I guess it's like amongst them, Curtis is the only one who'd listen, because Dinah would attack him, Renee would kind of attack him, so... And I love the whole, like, 1, 2, 3, suit up. Oh, man, yeah, that's awesome. But Renee's like, yeah, but we don't need to do that whole 1, 2, 3. It's like, well, the fact of the matter is, I'm trying to say suit up at the same time. I want to do something a little bit different, almost making it seem like Team Arrow has the copyright on that. It's like, we don't want to be copying them, copyright infringement. It's like, no, we'll do our own thing. It's like, well, really, it's not that cool. You have Dinah just being like, oh, just shut up, and just, like, they're going to suit up, so... I do appreciate that Curtis is trying to distinguish himself. The name he gave was The Outsiders. Immediately my brain goes, that's a reference. It has to be. Like, that just came out of nowhere. The fact is, Dinah was like, oh yeah, because I like that book. But I'm like, yeah, that's a comic book reference. Like, there probably is legit a team in the comic books called The Outsiders that these characters are in some shape or form connected to. Why? Because they sneak in certain things like that. Because, because they did something like that. I pointed out earlier this season with like Felicity's business. Like, one of the names she was going for was, I think wasn't it Oracle? And I was like, oh yeah, like, because that's Batgirl's code name and stuff. Well, Barbara Gordon specifically, when she was no longer Batgirl after getting paralyzed, she became Oracle, more of like the tech support of the group. That situation. So, they sneak in stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not well versed in comic books. Asterisk. I always have to do that. I mean, it would have made more sense to say the asterisk first, but you get my point. So, a lot of it goes over my head, but there's those ones I'm like, I nailed it. Nevertheless, I'm going off a huge tangent. But the question is, can Vince be trusted? And it seems like it can possibly be, because it turns out his tip about like the train system turned out to be right, which I appreciate what Dinah did. That was pretty badass, like using her canary cry to like slow down the other train from slamming into them. And it's like, yo, go Dinah. I was like, that was pretty cool. And then also all the safe zones that Oliver had set up, they planned on attacking it, because everything was kind of part of Caden's plan. He's always like one step ahead. He manipulated Oliver into making people go to the safe zones so that he could attack them. And I guess the whole point, because he set up this whole ransom situation, is like, okay, pay me 10 mil a day, so that this way, the city can eventually go bankrupt and just kind of everything crumbles essentially. So either it was supposed to kind of turn public opinion against Oliver, because it's like, oh, we were attacked because of you, or just kind of, to make a point that, or a combination of and making a point like the city's under his control and there's no getting from underneath that. Like, whatever. There's many different routes of like, I mean, it all kind of stems from the same thing of like proving that Oliver can't fix this situation, that he has no control, that he, Caden James, is all in control in this particular situation. It's kind of what I feel like the message that was supposed to send. But nevertheless, Vince warned the others, that being Curtis, Renee, and Dinah, and obviously they bring in Oliver and Diggle too, he's got a new suit and everything, because Cisco's been working on it, which is like, man, Cisco, you just literally earlier this week, let's not forget, got a new suit for Ralph, and now you got one for Diggle. So at first I was almost thinking like, oh, we're about to have like Diggle wearing the suit. I was like, oh, is it like a Spartan suit or just like a new Green Arrow suit for him? It's like, oh, no, it's a Spartan suit. So I thought that was kind of neat. What kind of took me by surprise in this episode too was like William and like how he handled that whole bus situation. Like he took charge and everything. The fact that he is like, you guys go this way, go, and led the charge. I'm like, whoa, look at you stepping up. Immediately, you're like, they are probably already setting him up to like, because immediately my brain starts, obviously like Oliver came to rescue him as a Green Arrow, and it's like, whoa, what are you doing? Wait, you're the Green Arrow? Oliver could have easily lied to me like, yeah, I did it because I had to get to you, and then be, if I start saving you, people, might start, but he didn't continue to lie. It was like time for the truth to come out. But immediately my brain goes, are they setting him up already to take out? Because I brought it up before. It's like Oliver needs help. It's like somebody's going to have to take up the mantle of Speedy. And it's like, do you think William will? I mean, I know canonically speaking, Oliver's son, which his son's name isn't William, it's Connor. Connor Hulk is typically the one who takes up the mantle after Oliver. But obviously with the whole Legends of Tomorrow, we know that Connor Hulk is actually John's son. But John doesn't have a son anymore. But the whole thing is supposed to be, like I said, Legends of Tomorrow is set up to be canonical to... Well, he does have a son. I was getting confused. I was like, right, I'm such an idiot. Ignore me what I just said. I was like, right. He had a daughter, Sarah, and now has a son, John. So it is canonical. Nevertheless, John Jr. is supposed to be the one who takes over the mantle, speak in the way Legends has got it set up. So that does beg the question... Will that be the case, or will they make it so that William actually takes over the mantle of Speedy? That'd be pretty cool, but I don't know if Oliver would be all too keen about him. And obviously William had a big problem with this because it's like, you lied to me, which Oliver has a big problem with lying because like Felicity kind of steps in being stepmom and everything, which is like so cool. I'm like, even hearing her say like, yeah, stepmom, and I'm like, you're a stepmom. That's so cool. I mean, Felicity's been there for William in this transitional period anyway, but it's still so interesting to me to think about, like, the fact that you're a mom now, and it's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, eventually, there was always a conversation of, like, whether they'll have kids themselves in the future or not, but nevertheless, but her kind of talking to William and kind of explaining everything, it's like, she's like, I've been in love with your father for a long time, and we know that comes with some complications, that we kind of have to make sacrifices because he makes sacrifices to do what he does to be the hero that the city needs, and the city needs him. Because William was always worried because it's like he already lost his mom. He doesn't want to lose his dad too. It's like, but he kind of said it's like a bittersweet thing because it's like it's sweet but also sad. But he's like, I'm not worried even because even if something did happen, I'd have Felicity. And it's like, because it's not like he's fighting. He's like, yeah, Felicity's important to me. Asking her for my help with our homework. I even love Oliver being like, yeah, go ahead, just get out of here with your Flash book bag. It's like, I'm a superhero too. Barry's not that cool. He doesn't say that, but you read between the lines. And I love that little bit of a competition. It's like, I love that aspect of superhero stuff of when you can break the fourth wall to a certain extent. It's like, well, I'm the superhero that all this merchandise is being sold about, which is like, why does it, have you ever made a joke about the fact is that Oliver doesn't get a cut of any? It's like, you're using my likeness. Yeah, I don't get any cut of this merchandise, but being the stoic hero he is, I'm sure Oliver wouldn't really think too much about that. But I feel like maybe that joke has already been made before, but nevertheless. Especially because they made that, wasn't it back in when William was introduced back in season 4? Isn't the Flash his favorite superhero? And it kind of bothered Oliver a little bit, in a joking way. Nevertheless, but obviously, like I said, William has the right to be mad because Oliver has lied. Even Felicity admits, your dad has lied to me a lot too. But everything Oliver has ever done is to him doing the right thing, or at least trying to do the right thing. That he's trying to protect this city, and it's not a decision that he makes lightly, and all what he needs is us to believe in him that he will come back. Because yes, this is a job that can be dangerous, and not everyone comes back and looks at Laurel's Black Canary suit. But seeing Oliver, he's watching the feed as Oliver's kind of kicking ass, and then Felicity's like, oh yeah, he's going to do this and do this, and he's like, oh, he's going to use the arrow like this. She covers it. Maybe I shouldn't be letting you watch this. It's like, wow, it's kind of pretty brutal, and it's in a weird messed up way, it's like, yeah, he's kind of watching his dad kind of take people down. And when I say take people down, I'm emphasizing to take people down. It's like, it's kind of an interesting way to see your own dad. But even William's kind of like, yeah, he is pretty badass. So it's an interesting dynamic and situation. It is I am glad that the truth is out there, because that was a big concern of mine, and like, oh, what that means going forward. It seems like, William understands it better, and he isn't going to let Oliver. He's like, I want you to be safe and everything, but I recognize how important what you do for the city is. What's also interesting too is that John was like, well, the fact of the matter is, now that he's got his hand back, he's good. It's like, how long can until I put the hood back on? And then he's like, yeah, I hope I do it. He wants to put the hood on back for their sake. But also, let's not forget, John said it himself, he always kind of wanted to be under the hood, because basically that whole like heroes versus alien crossover, it's like, oh yeah, that kind of on some subconscious level, that's what he kind of wants. He wants to be like the hero, even though he isn't one, but it's like to be the hero, so I'm interested to see where that goes, especially now that William's kind of okay with it. But eventually it does put peg the situation of like, oh, eventually Oliver will pass the hood on to him. It seems like once this Kate and James situation is dealt with, he'll pass it on. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. It's definitely going to be interesting going forward with that whole aspect, especially the new teams and everything, considering the fact is that it's like, no matter, even if they exchange information and they work together to a certain degree, it doesn't change things. It's kind of what Renee gets at. So it's definitely going to be interesting seeing all that going forward. Also in this, I kind of skipped over it, was Vince being undercover and everything, which in retrospect, it's like, it does make more sense, because it's like Vigilante has all been about like taking down bad guys. So it's like, so why would you literally join a group, a legion of sorts? Even though it's not the Legion of Doom, I know, but still, because the Legion of Doom has already existed. But nevertheless, it's like, why would he do that? It's like, is he getting something else out of this? And it's like, oh no, because he's undercover, which is kind of interesting, which kind of makes sense. So I wonder what set him on this path too, because I think the last time we saw him last season, wasn't that when Adrian pushed him off that roof? I think that's the last time we saw him last season. I could be remembering that wrong. But this whole situation does kind of put things in a different perspective for Dinah, because for Dinah, it's like, oh, because it's like, she brought up an interesting thing about the fact is that once Vince goes undercover, he's very good at it. But the problem is, once he does that, he has a tendency to kind of forget and kind of blur lines. Because like saying the last time he was undercover, he kind of got caught up in it and everything. So it's like, who's to say the same thing won't happen? I don't know, maybe, Vince is possibly a different person. Whether that's a good thing or 100% a bad thing, we've yet to really fully see. So, which Team Arrow doesn't know about Vince being their source, because they're not really even though they're exchanging information, not telling everything, because also they know that if they told Oliver would probably be super reluctant and probably would, he doesn't trust us, hence why the teams are broken up. So there's no way he's going to trust our judgment. He's going to like, oh, how can we be so sure? It turns into that whole argument. So eventually it's going to be something that either they find out on their own, either they try and go after Vince, and then the other team has to tell them, and it's like, well, why didn't you tell us? It's like, well, why didn't you tell us a lot of stuff that you didn't tell us? So it turns to that too. So like I said, it seems like this whole situation is possibly rekindling the flames between him and Dinah. I mean, it already was happening, but now it's like, well, maybe even more so when they're working together, which is going to get super complicated, because I'm sure Caden's going to have its eyes on Vince. Because of the whole, like, oh, like, the fact of the matter is, Dinah had figured him out already. So, because they were hoping to kind of use that more as a way of kind of controlling her going forward. So, once again, it's that situation of, like, who knows how, because like I said, with Caden's situation, we've seen that, like, everything he does is further and further manipulation. I mean, to be fair, he took down one of those dudes, and that guy was like, yo, you're a traitor, I'm going to take you down with me, and took him down. That was the dude that was, like, Caden's right-hand man, so the group is already down one person, so. But, I mean, if they do have him as an inside source, it's going to help out with their team a lot. I mean, obviously, like, Team Arrows are going to be in the dark, but, Curtis's team won't be, because they'll probably be one taking the charge, because for them it's like, no, we can handle this, so I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting going forward, especially because Oliver makes the decision that he's going to pay the ransom, at least in this particular episode, because everything he's doing, once again, doing it for the right reasons, is trying to buy the city more time. Like, they don't negotiate with terrorists, sure, but it's like, this is a dire situation. People are going to be attacked and die. At least this can give them enough time till they can find a way to, like, what really solidified this form was the fact that Helena couldn't find any proof. So they're going to have to go a different route to kind of figure out, like, who set this whole situation up with Kate and Jace turning him against Oliver and, in fact, Star City. So until then, they're going to have to pay the ransom, which is like 10 million a day. So, and like I said, once again, we don't know 100% of what Kaden has in store. So I'm very interested to see, where this whole situation takes us on, like, the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good